2, 3, 4.
Welcome everyone to Discover This, and welcome back. A little while back we did a video on Lester Bangs, if you recall that, and about his time in San Diego and growing up and becoming a famous rock journalist. Well, from that video we got a suggestion by one of our longtime viewers, from the beginning actually, Kevin W. suggested we do a video on Cameron Crowe and his teenage years of interviewing rock bands and moving on to writing Fast Times at Ridgemont High and then doing the movie Almost Famous. So we're going to do that today. We're going to talk about Cameron Crowe and his life and how he got to be where he's at. And we're going to start here in Palm Springs, California, which is where Cameron Crowe was born on July 13th, 1957. Now, Cameron's father was in real estate, and the family lived in a few different houses out here in the valley. The family spent a lot of time here at this house at 1240 Paso Tiempo in Palm Springs. I believe this house may still be on VRBO, so you could actually stay in this house that Cameron Crowe grew up in, or one of them. And then later on, after this house, the Crowe family moved out to Indio for a few years. Indio, where they have Coachella and Stagecoach, all that. And then they ended up settling in San Diego, California. Now, after moving from Indio, California, the Crowes landed here in San Diego, California, specifically at the Antoinette Apartments at 1818 6th Avenue. It's now called La Maison, but it used to be called Antoinette when the Crowes lived here. And they lived in apartment B1 down in the basement. And we have a photo from when Cameron Crowe did some news magazine years later where they went back and revisited his old apartment. And you can see B1 on the door. But this apartment building is right across the street from Balboa Park, which is convenient because Cameron Crowe's parents would take him from time to time to the Old Globe Theater to see plays and performances. Or as years later, Cameron Crowe and his mom did an interview, and Cameron Crowe said they dragged him to the Old Globe Theater. But the Old Globe will factor into Cameron Crowe's story later. But being on 6th Avenue, he was just a few blocks from the main part of downtown San Diego, where Crowe would meet one of his mentors and work for a local newspaper. Now, Cameron Crowe went to University High School, which at the time was right across the street from the University of San Diego. It was also known as Uni. It ended up becoming Cathedral Catholic High School in later years, and University High School, or Uni, was demolished, make way for some condominiums and a city park. In high school, Cameron started writing for the school paper and doing album reviews for an underground local paper called The Door. Now, that's the same newspaper that Lester Bangs worked at before heading east to Cream magazine. As an added factoid, you know who else wrote for The Door? Danny Sugarman, from The Doors fame. The author who wrote a few books about the Doors and followed them around for many years. Well, Danny Sugarman also wrote for The Door. So Cameron Crowe started writing to Lester Bangs, and the two formed a long-distance relationship and friendship. Now, it ends up that the Crowes' apartment at the Antoinette Apartments was just a few blocks away from a radio station where Cameron Crowe would eventually meet his mentor, Lester Bangs, on one of Bangs' rare trips back to San Diego. It was Lester Bangs who gave Crowe one of his first assignments, interviewing the rock band Humble Pie. Now, Cameron Crowe's parents wouldn't allow rock music in the house, and Cameron had to win tickets to his very first rock concert from a radio station. His first rock concert was Iron Butterfly. Cameron graduated high school at 15. He had skipped kindergarten and 2 grades in elementary school. And when he was 15, during a trip to LA, he met Ben Fong Torres, then the editor at Rolling Stone magazine. And Cameron Crowe ended up joining the staff at Rolling Stone as a teenager and started interviewing and writing profile articles on a number of different performers, including Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Led Zeppelin, Elton John, Mark Bolan, Alice Cooper, Chris Christopherson, and many, many, many more. He also spent about 2 weeks on tour with the Allman Brothers. When Rolling Stone moved from the West Coast to New York, Cameron Crowe stayed on the West Coast and would end up doing some freelance writing for the magazine. So in 1979, Cameron Crowe started a new project, and he was going to write a book about high school life. And to do that, he decided to go undercover as a high school student. And this is all when he was 22 years old. And he went back to high school to research this book. And that book was called Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And the high school he did his research at was Claremont High School here in San Diego, California. He went to the principal and told him what he wanted to do. And the principal and probably one other teacher were the only ones that knew that Cameron Crowe was an undercover student. Cameron Crowe became Dave Cameron, student at Claremont High School. Now, there are people that who later said they knew or at least had their suspicions, pretty much because Cameron Crowe would sometimes only show up around lunchtime or after school, and he would record people, you know, their conversations and things. So it was kind of weird. He didn't take tests. He didn't show up every day, all that kind of business. Now, the characters in the book were all composites of various students, all kind of mashed together, and he, you know, would make a character for the book out of, you know, a handful of other characters that he would meet during his school time. So, but there's a number of people who've come forward later who said that they believe certain characters are based on them, and it's probably partially true. Now, there's really only one character in the book that is primarily like one specific guy, and that's the character of Mark Ratner. Now, Mark Ratner was based on a guy by the name of Andy Rathbone. Andy Rathbone was a guy who befriended Cameron Crowe, or Dave Cameron, and Andy Rathbone went on to fame later as a writer, and he wrote a number of computer books, specifically some for the Computers for Dummies series. So, right up my alley. So now, before the book Fast Times at Ridgemont High came out, it was actually optioned for a movie before he'd even finished writing it. And so he had a movie deal in place already, so he already kind of knew the movie more or less was going to get made. Now, the movie became a classic. The book, unfortunately, is out of print, very hard to find, very expensive if you do find it. But the movie's legendary in the sense that going through high school life, and it's just a great movie all around. A lot of people got their start in that movie. Sean Penn, Judge Reinhold, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Anthony Edwards, Eric Stoltz, Forrest Whitaker, Nicolas Cage. They were all in that movie. Now, the movie also had a cameo appearance by someone who was listed in the credits as the beautiful girl in the car. And that girl in the car was Nancy Wilson from the rock band Heart. And 4 years later, after filming that movie, Nancy Wilson and Cameron Crowe would get married. Now, a little bit more trivia for the movie. Did you know that Justine Bateman turned down the role of Linda Barrett, who was played in the movie by Phoebe Cates? And Matthew Broderick turned down the role of Jess Spicoli, who was played by Sean Penn. Now, the Fast Times at Ridgemont High movie was actually filmed around Los Angeles, and I'll put a link in the description of a guy who did the filming locations for that movie, Sean Clark, Malfunction on YouTube. So I'll put a link to his thing. He did a really good job going to all the filming locations if you want to see that kind of stuff. But the book is based on things that Cameron Crowe had seen and did in San Diego, California, while he's doing his research as a high school student. Now, if you want a little bit more trivia for Claremont High School, this high school opened in 1958. And do you know who came to the opening in 1958? Well, there was a popular local DJ who had a friend up in LA, and the DJ was brought into Claremont High School to MC basically the grand opening of the school. And he brought down his friend, and his friend was Ritchie Valens. And Ritchie Valens came to Claremont High School on opening day and performed a couple songs. Right after he performed here at Claremont High School, that's when La Bamba really blew up and raced up the charts. Now, some famous folks that graduated from here. Kris Jenner, you know, the momager from the Kardashian family. She graduated from Claremont High School. Jennifer Batten, the guitarist, famous for playing with Michael Jackson and Jeff Beck. Two of the guys from the metal band Pierce the Veil. Mo Gaffney, comedian, actress. Baseball player Kevin Mitchell. And Kendra Wilkinson, Playboy model and reality TV show personality. They all went to school here. So even though Cameron Crowe went to Claremont High School for the 79-1980 school year, he maybe also did a little bit of research at Redondo Beach High School. That's a rumor that's gone around for years, but primarily the book is based on his the activities and people he met here at Claremont High School. Now, Cameron Crowe would utilize San Diego for another one of his projects, the movie Almost Famous, a movie based on Cameron's time as a teenage journalist. Now, the movie recounts the exploits of a fictional rock band called Stillwater and the teenage journalist that followed them around. The movie was filmed at several locations around San Diego, including his old high school, University High School. So if you wanted to see what it looked like before it was demolished, you'll have to watch that movie. Another location was here at 7th and Ash, where they recreated the scene where the Cameron Crowe character met his mentor Lester Bangs. And in this photo you can see the real Cameron Crowe on the far left and Philip Seymour Hoffman as Lester Bangs in the middle, and then the character of what was the Cameron Crowe character on the right. But same building, still here, 7th and Ash. Another place they filmed was here at the San Diego Sports Arena, now called Pechanga Arena. A number of the band scenes were filmed here. Now, the Allman Brothers, specifically Greg Allman, in his autobiography, believes some of the fictional band stories come from Cameron Crowe's time touring with the Allman Brothers. Here's a few little tidbits or factoids, if you will. Peter Frampton was brought in as a consultant on the movie Almost Famous. Jack Black actually auditioned for the role of Lester Bangs in the movie, which ultimately went to Philip Seymour Hoffman. And Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains was originally going to play the bassist in Stillwater, but he was in the middle of recording a solo album, so the timing really didn't work out too well. Now, Billy Crudup, the actor who plays the lead guitarist in Stillwater, didn't actually play the guitar parts in the movie. Cameron Crowe brought in Mike McCready from Pearl Jam to play the guitar parts, and that's who you hear in the movie playing lead guitar for Stillwater. Now, Almost Famous didn't do too well at the box office, but it did get 6 Golden Globe nominations and 4 Academy Award nominations. And Kate Hudson won a Golden Globe for her part in the film. The film also won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay for Cameron Crowe. It also won a Grammy Award for Best Compilation Soundtrack. Okay, I mentioned earlier that the Old Globe Theater would factor back into the Cameron Crowe story. And it does, because years after the Almost Famous movie had kind of come and gone, Cameron Crowe repurposed that story into a musical for the theater. And the world premiere of that play was at the Old Globe Theater in Balboa Park, where Crowe's parents would take him, or in his words, drag him, to see Shakespeare plays. Now, the Almost Famous play opened here at the Old Globe in September of 2019 and played here for quite a while. And eventually, it ended up on Broadway on November of 2022. Not too shabby. So that's going to do it, everyone, on our little story about Cameron Crowe and his growing up in San Diego and the projects he came back to San Diego to work on. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video to our Lester Bangs video, and you can watch that also. They kind of go hand in hand, Lester Bangs and Cameron Crowe. And we have plenty of other videos for you to check out, and a lot more coming. So, until next time, remember our motto.
Learn it, know it, live it.